20 years after an Alabama teenager was killed, her murderer reveals what happened to her. Natalee Holloway was bludgeoned to death in Aruba and disposed of in the sea. That's according to Joran Sloot as part of his plea deal in a federal extortion case. He was sentenced to 20 years, which will be added to the time he's already serving in Peru for another murder. 10 on your side's investigative reporter Chris Horn just spoke with a Virginia FBI profiler who worked on the Holloway case. Chris?
Yeah, fascinating, Lena. Mary Ellen O'Toole is now a professor of forensic science at George Mason University. But for more than 20 years, she worked as an FBI profiler on some of the Bureau's most high-profile murder cases. She traveled to Aruba and saw traits in Joran Sloot that she had seen before. O'Toole says we now have details in Natalee's death, but probably not all of them.
I saw that cold-bloodedness about him.
Mary Ellen O'Toole had access to the interviews of Joran Sloot.
He did have some traits that I'm used to, I've worked with before. He was very glib and charming. He was an extroverted person and he could turn on the charm. There was nothing there in terms of empathy for Natalee. He was very cold and very distant.
Investigators in Aruba called O'Toole in to support the investigation of the death of Natalee Holloway. The Alabama teen was on a 2005 high school trip when she was killed, and Sloot was the last person to see her.
And the seriousness of the circumstances of her disappearance did not seem to make an impact on him like it would with most people.
O'Toole had worked the Unabomber, Green River, and Zodiac cases. She saw in Sloot true psychopathic behavior.
They can be very engaging and you don't realize really what's underneath. And so that's a trait that's consistent with a number of violent offenders.
This week, Sloot finally gave details. Back in 2005 on an Aruban beach, Natalee refused his advances.
I don't know that she was attracted to him. I think he approached her and at some point she went with him. And I'm not sure why, because she was really described as more of a quiet, introverted young woman.
Natalee then kneed him in the groin. He kicked her and then bashed her head with a cinder block and dragged her body into the sea.
I don't think we got all the truth. They want you to view them a certain way. So they don't go into maybe all of the depraved aspects of the crime. And you want them to tell you everything. And they sit back and say, you can almost see it sometimes on their face. I'm not telling you everything. This is my information. These are my victims. Going to the grave with it.
O'Toole says killers often hold back certain details to use as bargaining chips later because they get bored behind bars and will want to try to shorten their sentences. Sloot is already serving 28 years for killing another woman in Peru. That was in 2010. Chris Horn, 10 on your side.